just that gamer type of mentality that he was going to, have the right mindset to be successful in this league. So then once he can learn everything else, the fact that he has that foundation of having that right mindset, just probably through the way he's grown up, is gonna serve him well.
What has this season been like for you, to just kind of a roller coaster and then starting the last games and now here?
It just shows you kind of what life is. Like that was my introduction to like life, in a different perspective. So I was thankful for everything. I'm thankful that everything happened how it happened because it helped me out as a person.
Do you have to change your flight after you find out you're going to the Pro Bowl? Like, do you still get to go see your brother at that moment?
Yeah,
or are you
I
like at the
went.
ticket counter, like, I gotta go to...
He's always had that gamer-type mentality, the mindset that you need to be successful at this level. Once he learns everything else, that foundation of having the right mindset, probably shaped by how he grew up, is really going to serve him well. Reporter, what has this season been like for you? It's felt like a roller coaster, and now you're starting games at the end of the year. Shedeur Sanders. It really just shows you what life is like. That was my introduction to life from a different perspective. I'm thankful for everything. I'm thankful that everything happened the way it did, because it helped me grow as a person. Reporter, do you have to change your plans once you find out you're going to the Pro Bowl? Like, do you still get to see your brother, or are you at the ticket counter saying, I've got to go? From the very first moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the Pro Bowl practice field, it was clear this wasn't going to be a quiet appearance or a courtesy invite. This wasn't a young quarterback nervously soaking in the atmosphere, taking selfies, or blending into the background. This was Shedeur arriving with intent, with presence and an edge that immediately changed how people around him reacted. Pro Bowl practices might look relaxed on TV, but anyone who's been around the league knows this is where reputations are quietly formed and remembered. Coaches watch body language. Players clock confidence. Defenders test quarterbacks early to see who's real and who folds. And Shedeur didn't flinch for a single second. His warm-up throws were crisp, deliberate, and sharp. The ball came out his hand with purpose, snapping into receivers' chests with tight spirals that didn't float or wobble. You could see defenders subtly adjusting their depth just from that alone. That's respect, and it comes fast when your arm talent speaks before you ever do. Reporter, you're from Cleveland. Can you tell me something he does behind the scenes to stay prepared for opportunities like this? Something people might not get to see? Teammate, oh my goodness, that's tough. But I think what Shedeur really has is confidence in who he is. And that's what serves him well as a young player. You have to have that unwavering belief in yourself, because no matter what, you're going to face situations you're not used to, especially when you've won a lot in college and then step into the NFL. I could see it right away, the belief he had in himself. As the drills picked up pace, Shedeur looked completely at home, running routes on air and syncing timing with receivers he hadn't spent an entire season building chemistry with. That matters. Quarterbacks who struggle in these settings usually blame unfamiliar faces or timing issues. Shedeur didn't. He adapted on the fly, adjusting cadence, signaling depth changes, and communicating clearly between reps. That's the kind of detail that separates quarterbacks who memorize playbooks from quarterbacks who truly understand defensive structure. Every rep was intentional. He wasn't just throwing to complete drills. He was throwing to establish rhythm. When a receiver broke a step too shallow, Shedeur didn't roll his eyes or rush to the next rep. He pulled him aside, explained the spacing, and ran again. That's leadership without noise. What really stood out was how quickly the energy around him shifted. Early on, defenders tested him aggressively. Corners pressed hard. Safeties rotated late. Linebackers hovered in throwing lanes, trying to bait mistakes. That wasn't disrespect. That was curiosity. NFL defenders want to see how young quarterbacks respond when things aren't clean. Shedeur responded with calm decision-making and quick processing. He didn't stare down routes. He manipulated defenders with his eyes. He took checkdowns when they were there and attacked windows when they opened. No panic, no hero ball, just smart football played at speed. That's rare in an environment where quarterbacks often try to impress instead of execute. The cameras followed him constantly, but he never played to them. No forced celebrations, no over-the-top reactions, just steady confidence. And that matters because Pro Bowl practices can expose insecurity faster than any game. Some players try too hard. Some disappear altogether. Shedeur stayed balanced. He spoke when needed, listened when needed, and stayed locked in when distractions crept in. That kind of mental discipline doesn't go unnoticed by veterans. It isn't flashy, but it's powerful. And by the end of the session, he wasn't being talked about as the young guy getting reps. He was being discussed as a quarterback who belongs in the same conversations as players with years in the league. Even the sideline energy around him felt different. Receivers leaned in when he spoke. Coaches nodded when he asked questions. Shedeur Sanders. I was in the airport. Actually, luckily my flight got delayed. Interviewer. So it was nothing but God? Shedeur. Yeah. Interviewer. Where are you supposed to be flying to? Shedeur. To see my brother, Shiloh. I was just flying back to see him. Teammate. Yeah, we were all supposed to fly together, but he had brighter ideas and got there quicker than us anyway. But it wasn't meant for him to get on the plane, because if he wasn't there at that moment, he wouldn't have gotten that call. Interviewer. What was your reaction when you got the call? Shedeur. I was so excited. That doesn't happen by accident. That's earned in real time. It showed that Shedeur wasn't just physically prepared, he was mentally ahead of schedule. He knew where the ball needed to go before the snap. He recognized what defenders were trying to disguise. He understood when to be aggressive and when to live for the next down. Those instincts don't come from hype or a family name. They come from reps, pressure, and accountability at every level of football. By the end of the first Pro Bowl practice, the message was clear without anyone needing to say it out loud. Shedeur Sanders didn't show up to observe. He came to compete. He came to prove that his game translates in any room, against any talent, under any spotlight. And in an environment filled with elite players who can spot weakness instantly, Shedeur showed none. Instead, he showed composure, command, and confidence that felt real. That's why this moment matters. Not because it was flashy, not because it went viral, but because it confirmed what many around the league are starting to believe. Shedeur Sanders isn't just part of the future. He's already knocking on the present. If the first Pro Bowl practice introduced Shedeur Sanders to the room, the second practice is where the room truly locked in on him. On-field audio. Hey, I'm going up. Here we go. Here we go. We don't need anything deep. We need you right here. You're outside to the right. I'm good right here. Now get out, get out. I know. Like this, keep the ball up. I'm definitely doing that. This is usually the day when the novelty wears off and the evaluation sharpens. Defenders stop feeling things out and start competing for real. Windows get tighter. Coverages get more complex. Mistakes get remembered. And once again, Shedeur didn't just survive that environment. He grew inside it. From the opening team drills, it was clear defenders weren't treating him like a rookie anymore. They weren't testing him out of curiosity, they were testing him out of respect. That shift is subtle, but in NFL circles, it's massive. It means players believe you can actually hurt them if they're careless. Shedeur's command of the offense stood out immediately. He wasn't rushing the tempo, but he wasn't dragging it either. He controlled the pace like someone who understood that every rep mattered. His cadence stayed consistent. His footwork stayed clean. His eyes stayed active. When defenses disguised pressure, he identified it quickly. When linebackers cheated into throwing lanes, he adjusted his progression. And when nothing was there, he didn't force anything. He lived to the next snap. That's grown quarterback behavior, especially in Pro Bowl practices where the temptation to show off is constant. One of the most telling moments came during a red zone segment. Defenses tightened up. Spacing shrank. Anticipation became everything. Shedeur didn't hesitate. He threw receivers open, not waiting for separation, but trusting timing and leverage. That's a skill veterans respect deeply, because it only works if you truly understand coverage rules. On one rep, a defender broke hard on an out route, expecting a quick throw. Shedeur held him with his eyes for half a beat, then fired a strike inside before the window closed. No celebration, no reaction, just a jog back to the huddle, like it was expected. That's when the sideline chatter picked up. And then came the moment that really shifted the conversation. Joe Flacco, a quarterback who's seen everything this league can throw at you, didn't hesitate when asked about Shedeur. He didn't offer a generic compliment. He said he was proud of how Shedeur handled himself, proud of how he competed, and impressed by how comfortable he looked in a room full of established players. That carries weight. Joe Flacco isn't known for hype. He's known for honesty, professionalism, and letting football speak. When someone like that shows public respect, players listen. Coaches listen. Front offices listen. It's not about headlines. It's about validation from someone who understands exactly what this position demands. Shedeur Sanders. I was surprised. It wasn't like I came in expecting it, like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be here. I didn't think too much about it. I just take things day by day. Whatever comes out of that, comes out of that. If you told me at the beginning of the year that this would happen, I couldn't honestly say I would have believed it. Interviewer. What does it mean to you to be at the Pro Bowl? Shedeur. It's amazing. I'm really thankful. I get here and I'm like, dang, I really get to be around all these great guys and great coaches. It's surreal. What made Flacco's words even more meaningful was the context. This wasn't praise after a game-winning drive or a viral highlight. This was praise for habits, for preparation, approach, and poise. That's the kind of respect quarterbacks chase because it lasts. And it matched exactly what people were seeing in practice. Shedeur wasn't trying to dominate every drill. He was trying to run the offense the right way. That difference matters. It shows maturity. It shows trust in the process. It shows confidence without ego. Defenders noticed it too. As practices went on, coverage against Shedeur tightened. Safeties stopped freelancing. Corners stayed disciplined. Pass rushers held their lanes. That wasn't generosity. That was respect. No one wants to get embarrassed in front of their peers, and Shedeur had earned that level of attention. He wasn't being challenged to see if he could handle it anymore. He was being challenged because players wanted to beat him. That's the real test. And he handled it with the same calm he showed on day one. By the end of the second practice, it was clear this wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a good day or a lucky stretch. This was consistency, the same mechanics, the same decision-making, the same leadership presence. Shedeur Sanders had shown he could walk into a room full of elite talent and not shrink. He didn't demand respect. He earned it rep by rep. And when veterans like Joe Flacco openly acknowledged that, it only confirmed what the tape already showed. This Pro Bowl week wasn't just exposure for Shedeur. It was confirmation, and the league felt it. By the time the third stretch of Pro Bowl practices arrived, the evaluation of Shedeur Sanders had moved past curiosity and into something much more serious. This is usually the point in the week where narratives settle in. Players who flashed early either level off or get exposed. Quarterbacks who leaned on adrenaline start making careless mistakes. But Shedeur didn't fade. He sharpened. His reps became cleaner. His decisions faster. His command more obvious. That's what truly stood out to coaches and evaluators watching closely. Improvement in real time is one of the hardest things to fake in football, and Shedeur showed it naturally. On-field audio. Do it. I'll do it again. Hold on, hold on. Hey, listen, you got to check the arm mobility on this. They know. The key is when we get close to the goal line. We'll scratch it. Get in. Let go body him. All you do is run up, push him to, you mean me? Take that out. Let me work on my catches. What made this stretch so important was how defenses adjusted to him. They weren't running vanilla looks anymore. Safeties disguised coverages until the last possible second. Corners played tighter leverage. Linebackers timed their drops specifically to disrupt his preferred throwing windows. That's what happens when defenders believe you can beat them. Shedeur responded by leaning into anticipation rather than reaction. He released the ball before breaks, trusted spacing, and manipulated defenders with subtle movement instead of exaggerated head turns. Those details separate quarterbacks who survive from quarterbacks who control games. Another thing that stood out was how Shedeur handled adversity. Not every rep was perfect. A few throws were tipped. A few routes didn't come together cleanly. But his response never changed. No frustration, no visible annoyance, no loss of rhythm. He came right back to the huddle with clarity and direction. That emotional steadiness is something teams value almost as much as arm strength. Coaches pay close attention to how quarterbacks handle the reps that don't go viral, and Shedeur passed that test without ever drawing attention to himself. There was also a noticeable shift in how teammates interacted with him as the week went on. Receivers checked in with him between drills. Tight ends asked for clarification on reads. Even veteran players sought his input. That doesn't happen unless trust is forming. Quarterbacks earn that trust by being consistent, prepared, and accountable. Shedeur showed all three. He owned mistakes, communicated clearly, and never pointed fingers. That's locker room currency. It doesn't show up in box scores, but it shapes careers. Around the field, scouts and analysts quietly adjusted their tone. Conversations moved away from potential and toward readiness. The language changed. Instead of discussing what Shedeur might become, people started talking about what he already is. That's a massive shift. Pro Bowl practices are about projection, but they're also about confirmation. And Shedeur Sanders delivered both. The on-field banter showed Shedeur Sanders fully comfortable communicating, joking, and problem-solving with teammates, a quarterback in command, not overwhelmed by the moment. As practices progressed, it became clear this wasn't about flashes or hype. Shedeur consistently ran the offense the right way, proving his game translated even as the talent, speed, and complexity around him increased. Defenses adjusted to him with tighter coverages and more discipline, not out of generosity, but respect. Shedeur responded with anticipation, precision, and calm decision-making, diagnosing looks and delivering calculated throws rather than forcing plays. He handled adversity the same way he handled success, steady, composed, and focused. What separated this Pro Bowl week from a typical showcase was his mindset. He didn't chase highlights or attention. He chased execution. He stayed mentally engaged between reps, communicated clearly with teammates, and elevated the environment around him. Veterans noticed. Coaches noticed. Evaluators noticed. By the end of the week, the conversation around Shedeur Sanders had shifted permanently from potential to readiness. Not because of one throw or viral moment, but because he consistently showed comfort, control, and credibility in an NFL environment designed to expose weaknesses. The takeaway was simple. When the level of competition rises, his game doesn't flinch, it sharpens.